Hello, welcome to Alyssa Reviews. My name is Alyssa. This is the first of two videos I'm doing in the month of September 2022, where I'm going to give an update on my life as a trans woman, just how things are going generally. This month I'm not getting into HRT as much, although I might touch on that. And my second video, which will be out in a couple weeks from now, this video is focusing more on a topic I haven't really discussed before on this channel, and that is the generalized fear of transphobia. Now, I did do one previous video on the topic of transphobia, but that was specifically focusing on transphobia within the queer community and focusing specifically on comments that I had gotten on some of my videos. And I'll put a link to that video at the end of this one. But this time I'm talking more general, just that looming specter of transphobia that just haunts all of us in the trans community and is ever present, even if we are fortunate enough to not have to deal with transphobia in our daily lives, which I count myself among those. I am very, very fortunate and privileged. First of all, I'm white, so I have that privilege going for me, but also, I happen to just live in a town where I can move about my daily life, go shopping, go out to bars, whatever, with pretty much no backlash. I have never had anyone say anything to me. Very rarely do I even notice people giving me dirty looks. People are just kind of doing their own thing. They don't care. 99% of the time I have been gendered correctly. Very rarely have I ever been misgendered. So with all of that, I feel very fortunate. I also have a job in which I'm not even the only trans person who works there. It's just very normalized. So I feel very good about all of that stuff. I'm very, very lucky to be in that kind of situation, because not all trans folk have that kind of situation. So I'm fortunate, but even still, transphobia is just so ever present that if you are trans, you cannot help but be aware of it and be a little bit afraid of it. And just seeing other people like me, other trans people, being greatly affected by it. Also, just the fact that it exists affects me deeply. So that's kind of what I want to talk a little bit about, and then specifically tying it in to this YouTube channel, and why I'm kind of content with not being super, super huge as a YouTube channel. Right now I'm very, 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 very small, and I kind of don't have a lot of ambition to become much bigger than I am. Maybe a little bit bigger, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. First, I just kind of want to talk about what I mean by transphobia and how it tends to manifest out there in the greater world around us. So, transphobia. Actually, first of all, I should mention, I never loved the term transphobia or homophobia. Even before I really realized that I was trans, I didn't even like the word homophobia. I forget who it was, but there was a comedian or somebody, it might have even been like Morgan Freeman or someone, I forget who it was, who had the quote, why do they call it homophobia? You're not scared of gay people, you're just an asshole. And I kind of feel that way about it. I wish we could move toward a different term, like maybe just anti-trans. I don't know. I obviously am using the term myself in this video, so I'm not going to be the leader on that. But I feel like phobia usually implies something that you can't control. Like if you have arachnophobia, like it's this uncontrollable fear for spiders. So phobia is something that I feel like is a condition, something that you can't control, whereas hating trans people and gay people, you can totally fucking control that. So I don't love the term phobia, but I use it because it's just the commonly used term. If we start moving away from it, though, I wouldn't be opposed. Anyways, generally how I see it manifesting is the grifters out there. There some really well-known ones are Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh, and then of course Tucker Carlson. Although Tucker Carlson is spreading out his hatred amongst black people and everybody else too, and Democrats in general. So he's more spread out. Whereas I feel like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Steven Crowder's another one who have this like almost, I don't know, unhealthy obsession with trans people. Like, why are you so obsessed with us? I don't know. And Matt Walsh recently did a documentary, anti-trans documentary, which Jesse Gender did a great breakdown on. And actually, I think Jesse Gender is doing a part 2 of her breakdown of the documentary. So I'm looking forward to that. So definitely check out Jesse Gender's breakdown of it if you have not already. Also, my other favorite trans YouTuber, Samantha Lux, has talked a lot about that particular individual as well. And it is not really the grifters themselves that bothers me as much as the people who listen to them and how they could take what the misinformation that they're getting from these grifters and using it to actively harm trans people. What do I mean by grifters? I mean that they are doing everything they're doing for power and money. They probably don't even believe everything that they're saying, or they don't care if what they're saying is true or not. So just some of like the things that they're saying, like they like to really put out this idea that trans people are stupid or crazy because we don't understand basic biological science or biological sex. That if you're born with a penis, that means you're a boy. If you're born with a vagina, that means you're a girl. Very, very simple, right? But it's ironic because they are putting out a point of view that does not understand basic science and just basic psychology, that gender is a social construct. So there is nothing actually biologically about the vagina that makes a person inclined to grow their hair out long, wear jewelry, wear dresses, wear makeup. Nothing about the vagina biologically makes a person do that. And in fact, many people with vaginas don't do those things, but still identify as female, still identify as women. They just choose not to submit to the gender constructs that society is trying to force onto them. And also behavior. There's this notion that people are supposed to behave a certain way based on their genitalia. There is nothing about the penis that makes you have to shotgun beers and watch sports and fix cars, whatever it is that men are supposed to do. There's nothing about the penis or even testosterone. Because I know plenty of men who have lots of testosterone flowing through their bodies who are not overly macho. So biology has nothing to do with it. Gender is very obviously a social construct, and these grifters are actively ignoring that in order to honestly manipulate people and their audience for their own personal gain of power and financial gain, obviously, to the detriment, of course, of many, many people within the trans and the gay community, LGBTQ plus community in general. And it goes beyond just like portraying trans people as just stupid and crazy. There's also very, very dangerous rhetoric that makes trans people out to be evil or the aggressors, or parents of trans children being somehow evil in some way. So there's that notion, for example, that liberal parents are forcing their children to get gender-altering surgery and mutilating their genitalia. and it's just sick and evil and all this stuff. Well, first of all, kids are not getting gender confirming surgery. Kids, typically, if they are trans, what they tend to get is puberty blockers so that they don't go through the puberty of the gender that they do not identify with. And puberty blockers are 100% reversible. So if the kid were to change their mind later in life, they go off the puberty blockers and they would go through puberty. And the other misunderstanding in all of this is that most kids they're not going to change their mind. When people question how a kid could know what their gender is, did you know what your gender was when you were a young kid? If you were cis, did you know that you were, say if you're a cis female, did you know that you were female at age 3? Yeah, it is the same for everybody, whether you're cis or trans. But forget about that. Let's just say, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. And maybe kids don't really know. Maybe they're wrong. It is 100% reversible. Nobody is doing anything irreversible. And parents are not forcing this on their kids. This is parents being loving and supportive of what their kids are telling them and listening to their kids. So this lie that is put out there by the grifters that I think know full well is a lie is very, very harmful. And that's just one example of the kind of toxic information that gets put out there. And what it leads to is trans people being murdered, trans people being doxxed, and now tying it back in specifically to trans people on social platforms such as YouTube, such as Twitch, such as TikTok. Terrible things can happen to them. So within the last couple month or two, there was a trans Twitch streamer named Heffels, I want to say. I'm not a Twitch person, I have to admit, or TikTok. I actually heard about her first on the Young Turks, who are big allies, even though most of them are not within the LGBTQ community, although a couple of the anchors on Young Turks are. And then Jesse Gender did a full video about Keffels. Now, there are people out there who say, well, it's a little more complicated because maybe Keffels is saying some things that aren't on the up and up, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. She doesn't deserve to happen. What happened to her, which was that she was swatted. Some transphobes found out her address, called the police, and told them that they suspected, I forget what it was specifically, but some kind of terrorist or murderer or something horrible at this address. And so they went with the SWAT team, and there... I feel like the cops should act on more than just one phone call. But anyway, so then they ended up treating her terribly. They possessed all of her stuff, including her computer and everything that she needs for her livelihood. And it was a very awful situation. And then Jesse Gender did a video about that, and Jesse Gender was expressing that she's really afraid of something like that happening to her. And she, in fact, has had, little things happen here and there. She had somebody, order a pizza to her and get it delivered while she was live streaming so that they could see that the pizza was there, and then they could say, confirm that they have her correct address. And she was expressing that, she's a little worried about making that Matt Walsh video that she made against his documentary and how that could have the backlash. So this really made me think a lot as a very small-time YouTuber. I've got 358 subscribers. Most of my videos get under 100 views. A lot of my Star Trek ones will get less than 50 views. Although I do, lately, since I put out my new transition timeline, some of my trans videos are getting greater than 100 views, which is very nice, and I'm thankful of you. But I'm still a very small-time YouTuber, and it makes me frightened to want to be any bigger than I am. I'm kind of... So it's a very mixed bag. The reason why I do these videos. So mainly is to pay it forward. But I had a channel previous to my transition called Acton Tomko's Reviews, where I presented as male, and I was primarily doing Game of Thrones reviews back in the day and Game of Thrones prediction videos, and then I was doing Star Trek reviews. I took a year off for the first year of my transition, and then came back reborn as Alyssa Jean. I completely deleted my previous channel and all 6,000 subscribers that I had in the previous channel, and started from zero and started all over again. And it's a mixed bag because I want to pay it forward. I want to be helpful to other trans people who are maybe in the closet, who are maybe questioning whether they're transitioning, or maybe they're just starting HRT. And I got a lot of help from watching a ton of YouTube videos. And you can't just watch one person, you gotta watch several because it's a little different for everybody. And watching several different videos, you get from several different point of views from several different trans people, you can get kind of a picture of what it might be like. And particularly transition timelines, the overwhelming message that I was getting from them is that it is totally worth it, the transition. And then I did it, and it totally was. So I kind of want to pay that forward. And I have gotten some wonderful comments on both of the transition timelines that I have made. I made one for my 1 year, and I just recently put out one for my 2-year transition, my HRT anniversary. Both of those, I've gotten a lot of wonderful comments of people who are in the same situation as me. Particularly people who are older, because a lot of the YouTubers that I used to watch were in their 20s, and I'm in my 40s. So, and there weren't a whole ton of people in their 40s or older on YouTube, just a couple here and there. So I wanted to give voice to that, and I've had a lot of wonderful comments from people who are in my same age group who I've had multiple people say that my story that I tell in my transition timeline is basically their story too. So that's wonderful, and I want to do that. I want to be out there, but I don't want to be too big. Like I am worried for Jessie Gender too. Like I honestly am, but I also really appreciate what people like her are doing with large platforms. She's pretty big, and Samantha Lux as well, and they're fighting the good fight. And I think we need people like them. I just don't want to be one of those people. And that's where the fear of transphobia comes in. I admire those who are doing that, and it's very important that we do stand out and we are out there. And I want to do that to a lesser degree. And it's not just about helping trans people, but also just exposure to cis people, just getting another point of view. People who maybe haven't decided yet, just don't have a lot of trans people in their lives, just don't think about it much, they don't know much about it. Having a trans content out there is helpful to them. So I do want to contribute to that, but the fear of terrible things happening definitely exists, is definitely out there. So to be perfectly frank, that's why I don't put like a ton of effort in making my videos like super clean. Like I don't know if you've noticed, but the webcam that I used to use broke, and now I'm just using the camera that comes on my laptop. Whatever. I do use a Yeti microphone to have, some quality of sound, but I'm not super worried about it being like, amazingly crisp or anything like that. I don't have the knowledge for all of those things. I don't have a production crew working on it. I'm just some person throwing my thoughts out there haphazardly, and that's kind of, I'm comfortable with that right now. I also don't really pay attention to the algorithms. You'll hear Jessie Gender a lot talk about the algorithms of YouTube. She's very tuned into that, and I think that has also helped her to really grow her channel, whereas I don't pay attention to any of that. So I think for me, like another, if I got up to 5,000 or 6,000 again, like I was when I was acting Tomko, that would be like sky's the limit. That would be the limit for me. But And so I'm not saying that I don't want to grow my channel at all. I'm not saying you shouldn't subscribe if you're not subscribed already. I'm only at 358, so up to 6,000. This is a long way to go. So please, please, please do subscribe. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that fear definitely makes it so I wouldn't want to have, I don't know how many Jesse Gender has. I haven't checked, like hundreds of thousands subscribers. Or Samantha Lux has like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Nah. And just really, really putting themselves out there. That's pretty bold, and I'm glad that they do that. I'm really glad that there and others. Those are the two that I primarily watch, but there's many others out there as well. So that's where I'm at. So this kind of ultimately turns into the state of my channel and why I'm kind of comfortable with my channel growing a little bit, but not too much. So that is where we're at with that. Yeah, so even as I'm recording this, I feel like a little spoiled. I feel a little privileged. I feel like, the whiny white person who doesn't deal with transphobia in her daily life, like worried about becoming too big of a YouTuber. Like, white people problems, honestly. But, the point of all of this is regardless of how privileged you are in your daily life as a trans person, that transphobia, it still is very ever present in your life. It still affects you. And when I see things like that happening to Keffels, and I don't care what people say about, oh, well, she's not perfect, she does this and that and that. It doesn't matter. She doesn't deserve what she got. And when I read a headline, trans person murdered, it really hits me hard. I mean, obviously, anyone getting murdered hits me hard. When police are murdering black people, that hits me very hard. But there's something about other trans people that I have this just bond with without ever having known them. We're like the for your Star Trek fans out there, like it's like we're like the Borg collective of trans people. Like we're all sort of connected in a way. And so when something horrible happens to someone else within the community, it really hits me hard. So even then, partially, I do feel like I'm a little spoiled in my daily life, but at the same time, the transphobia can still affect every single one of us. So that's really the point I wanted to get to in this video. I'm thankful for my privilege, but also transphobia still sucks. All right. Okay. I am going to wrap this up. I will be back in a couple weeks with a more traditional kind of trans life update. I'm going to talk about my HRT a little bit, but I have some other news I want to share with you, but I'll save that for that video in a couple of weeks. So please subscribe if you've not already. I only have 358 subscribers, so and I would love to be up to like 5,000 or 6,000, which I'm a long ways from. So please subscribe. Check out all my other videos, and if you're into Star Trek, I have Star Trek Lower Decks reviews coming out weekly, and also next week we'll be doing my top 10 best time travel Star Trek episodes, so check that out as well, and I will see you really soon. Goodbye.